Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Reaper Wargaming podcast. I'm joined with Dave, Fulvio, and Dave B here to go over another list. This week we are going over my list, and that is going to be the GSC, or the Genestealer cult. We're coming for your trousers, each and every single one of you. Dave, please stay seated. Dave, please stay seated.
I need to stand.
Please do not stand. So, as always, with our podcast, we're going to start with a bit of club news from the president, from the other committee members. Then we're going to dive into the list, and then we'll just take some questions about the list, about the GSC, and as always, the list will be in the description below. And please leave any comments, any questions in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from everyone, either here or in the Discord. So, without further ado, Dave, take it away with what is happening at the club right now.
We've just had, since the last podcast, we had the launch of our Narrative Crusade campaign. With all of the backstory created by Nurgle Sam, who's in the Discord, and the rules master himself there, David B, that's on the podcast with us today. They had a really successful launch. It coincided with the club's biggest ever gaming night. We had, I think, 25 people in playing, and across the night we had like 32 people in from the club. Absolutely amazing to see so many people coming down, having a laugh, getting involved. We had 4 massive mega tables with a custom rules package. There was Valkyries being blown up in hangar bays. There were Necrons reanimating in corridors and Eldar trickery. There were demons infesting. There's so many things going on. There's a whole bunch of pictures up on the Discord, and we even got a little intro picture with all the armies, all 14 or 15 armies from that night on display. Mm-hmm. And it's just crazy to think that in a few months' time, we're going to need like even more space to show that off, because everyone only had 500 points, and we're going to escalate all the way up. Is it to 2,000 points, Dave?
Yep, 2,000 points eventually.
So that was really fun. Managed to get a really fun game. I may have come out on top. I may have also ended up on the wrong table and ended up winning with my Space Marines. Whoops. But there was some awesome moments in that. We also had a bunch of new members sign up just from the last podcast. We now have over 70 members at the club, over 200 people in the Discord. And week on week, we keep getting really awesome numbers here on the podcast, which is a credit to everybody involved, and especially Nick for taking the lead on this project. It's been a lot of fun, and we seem to be getting a lot of good feedback, and long may that continue. And the last bit of news, at least for this podcast, in terms of what's coming up, was that the Las Vegas Open, which Fulvio and Dave are rocking the merch.
Sorry, I'm not standing. Whoa.
The Las Vegas Open GT that we have booked in for the end of the month has officially sold out. Once again, we have some of the best players in Scotland have picked up tickets and are going to be here. And we have a whole bunch of new faces coming along as well. And that's really because we managed to expand on the last one. We've grown to, I think, we've got 26 people coming to play across 2 days, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to hopefully have the stream up. We'll get everything up onto the YouTube eventually afterwards as well. If the Tech Marine Fulvio here, or well, he's a Chaos guy, so you're not a Tech Marine. What would you be? What's the
Dark Tech Marine?
There you go.
Warpsmith, there you go.
Fulvio the Warpsmith, if he can keep up with the technology that weekend. And still get all 5 rounds played, that'll be awesome.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
And again, we are just about there with all the terrain fully built. It's just about speed painting some of that now, with these last kind of week or so to go by the time this podcast airs. We got an awesome. I've not put up on social media yet. I'll do that actually soon. We got a massive delivery from Game Mat EU that would not have been possible without our club members, who have been coming down, as I said, not just for the Crusade, but just in the last month or two, massive numbers week in, week out, supporting the club, growing the club, and we've been able to reinvest into you, the community. We've got some big ambitions. We're going to keep some secrets, but we've got some big ambitions for the coming months. And yeah, Fulvio's also, I'm going to pass to Fulvio though, he's also probably got the biggest piece of news in terms of what's going to be happening at the club. So as club treasurer, I'm going to let him take that away.
Well, if David B doesn't die on the what's it or whatever he's doing, please watch these on YouTube because he's there you go. Is a continuous source of memes, honestly. That man. Right. Quickly. We have stickers, by the way. We have stickers on our Discord, and you can make the stickers and upload them themselves. Anyone is on the Discord can do it. So yeah, do it. The big news is that we might have found a way to solve all our problems of chasing people and asking for payments and stuff. So we're gonna open our new shop, which will allow us to sell chips for Derek's enjoyment, some juice like Coke and Monsters and stuff when you're playing, so you can actually pay there on the fly and just get them delivered to your table. And then, most important though, we're gonna have the possibility to buy the tickets for the table in advance, so you can book your table because they're going so quickly, really, really quickly. You better get them straight away. You just go into our portal, just pay online. Is easy peasy. Just book your table, go on the bot, select that you're on this table, and there you paid, and that's it, done. Super easy. It's gonna be launched from the 1st of October, I think, and possibly it's gonna handle some of the merch as well, which we can expand, but I'm not gonna say anything on that because the merch guy is El Presidente. So yeah, that's
yeah.
Tech bits.
Wait, did you say October? No, we're gonna get this sooner than
September.
that. I think. No, was it not September?
Yeah. First of
September.
September is live.
Sweet. There we go. So big changes, and as well as that, somebody's just lost. To accommodate this change, the committee, the three of us who make up part of the committee, Dave as well. Sorry, the four of us who make up the committee, along with Derek and Fulvio. Derek is here. Fulvio's here. He's just spoke. Can you tell I've had a long day at my new job? So the four of us plus Keir and Derek, we've sat down. We've kind of worked out all the logistics as best we can, and we will be having to increase Friday night game fees from £7 to £8, just to accommodate the various transaction fees that we're going to incur by making the transition to the new online web shop. It's going to make, hopefully, everyone's lives easier, but part and parcel of that comes with a very small number of fees that we're going to have to swallow up. And in order to accommodate that and not impact on the amazing charitable donations that the clubs put towards the ACVC Hub, who host us, we are very fast approaching this month on having raised almost £2,000 for the hub, which is a real credit to our members who have been supporting us on this journey, and in turn helping Alan, Gaynor, Charles and all the veterans at the ACVC Hub deliver their various arts and crafts and woodwork shops. So really, really chuffed. And to make sure that that continues, rather than put less money towards the charity, we've had to make this very small, hopefully small, incremental increase to our table nights, but it's going to be all worth it in the long run, and we hope everybody continues to come along and really enjoy themselves.
Great, perfect. Thanks for that, Dave. And if you have any questions ever about anything, you can contact any of the committee under the Primarchs tab in the chat. and we're always happy to talk through anything, whether it's about what we just talked about, it's about your lists, about how game nights work, anything like that. We're always happy to have chats with anyone. Okay, shall we dig into this list?
Yeah, Nick, let's hear what you have to say here, you know.
Me,
injuries.
I know, I'm a bit upset that Dave's here because me and Dave's actually going to play against this list on Friday in our live stream, which will be available as well to view. So essentially all I'm saying is if I lose, this is the reason, right? It's not because I've only played one game of 10 this whole time. So essentially I started playing in 9th edition, maybe with about a year and a half left or something like that. And I did that. Did the thing that every single person without fail does with Warhammer, which is search. How do you choose who to be with so many different armies, so many different factions? In 9th, there was like sub-factions upon sub. It was like mad by the time you came into 9th in the end, because it was like, oh, you can be this army, but then there's also these 4 sub-factions of that army, and you're like, do I now need to paint them that sub-faction? So essentially the same advice that's always given and will probably forever be given is always going to be the rule of cool. It's you choose whichever faction you like the look of, the lore of, the style that they play. And the reason for that is because Games Workshop chop and change the meta so frequently that stuff can jump from the top to the bottom very quickly. Stuff moves about all the time unless it's Eldar for some reason. And but yeah, I think there's a lot of Eldar players in that GW office. But essentially,
you're saying you get Space Marines to start off with? I didn't. You don't have Space Marines? Come on, they are the coolest of the cool.
I now have Space Marines. In
your opinion,
through the Leviathan box, but essentially, I chose the Genestealer cult because I loved the idea that they were this kind of like revolution force that was uprising from the ground to fight essentially the man. And what ends up happening in the end is actually they're being controlled by an even bigger being that comes down to the planet. And once they've taken over the planet, they just eat them all. And essentially, it's called the Day of Ascension. They were like, praise be, our gods have come. And the gods are actually horrendous gods called Nids. And they just eat them. So we do all the footwork and then get eaten is essentially it. Nice. They were very complicated in 9th. That is slime. There's always a bigger bug to eat you. So
you're all biomass at the end of the day.
Yes. And essentially, Genestealer cult was super complicated, and they've always kind of been a very quirky army with lots of little tricks. And in 9th, they were like crazy complicated just by the sheer amount of things that they could do was quite overwhelming. And they always did really well in tournament play, but mainly that was because so little people played them, and it was only really good players that played them at tournaments, and no one knew really what their armies did that well because they saw them so rarely that they just did well in tournament play. And if you can play Genestealer cult well, in 9th anyway, you were always kind of going to have an all right time, especially with all the tricks and stuff you can do. So 10th edition Genestealer cult, again, are right up on the top. And I would say they've done a really good job with Genestealer cult in terms of the fluff, in keeping their fluff. They are what's called a horde army. So a horde army being like lots of models, like quite a lot of models as compared to like an elite army like Custodes or some of the Space Marine factions, depending on how you build them as well. And you'll have a lot of models, and it's a lot of freaking painting. And I'll say with this edition so far, you'll be painting a lot of just infantry. Straight up, you'll be playing a lot of infantry because the whole way that they are played is based around how their infantry works and essentially flooding the board over and over again with cannon fodder infantry, essentially, which is just such great fluff for what the Genestealer cult are like, what the NIDs treat them like. It just makes a lot of sense. So they basically have an army rule called Cult Ambush. And what this army rule does is any unit with this in their keywords can essentially, once the unit's been killed, you basically place a marker 9 inches away from any unit, and then in the next basically phase for when deep strike abilities come back, so when your reserves come in, so the end of your movement phase, your unit comes back. The caveat to that is if an enemy moves within 9 inches of that token gets taken away. And the other point to that is any token can be any unit. So if you lose multiple units, you can bring any unit up at any point of that. So if they're a battle line unit, they come back no matter what, because it's on a 4+, but you add a free to result if it's a battle line unit. And if it's not a battle line unit, like I said, it's a 4+. So like your Aberrants, which I'll go over, come back on a 4+. Your bikes on a 4+, and also your Genestealer, your Genestealers, just basically the little raptor NIDs that come alongside, and pure strains that come along aside your army. They are also on a 4+. And the one little difference with the bikes is the bikes have to come in within 6 inches of the board edge as well.
Well, that's a bit reassuring.
Yeah, so the bikes have also been toned down. So essentially, the way that you're wanting to play GSC is that is the main way that you're going to play GSC, is using Cult Ambush to your advantage and just constantly moving troops onto objectives, moving troops around everywhere. So if you were playing maybe people that didn't know a lot about Genestealer Cult, one of the things that you have at your advantage is it can be very overwhelming to play Genestealer Cult just because of the amount of targets and not knowing what to pick, essentially. You can also, with Genestealers, get Brood Brothers, which are basically certain Astra Militarum units you're allowed in still, like an allied unit from 9th edition. That's up to 500 points. I would say right now, probably not really worth it because you lose a lot of the good stuff that Genestealers bring, but potentially if you're wanting some really heavy firepower, there is a little bit of flexibility to bring in some of the tanks and stuff. The one thing I would say is you also then need to know some of the Astra Militarum stratagems, things like that. So it can become a little bit more complicated to do that. But for more firepower in terms of like heavy support, there is options there to bring in some of the tanks as well. So one of their big sort of detachment rule is what's called They Came From Below. The names are all amazing. And essentially every time a Genestealer Cult unit is set up from reinforcements, that includes anything that comes back, you get sustained hits 1, which means every 6 you get another hit. And you also get the ignore cover ability, which is, in this edition, is amazing because if you are not able to get every unit cover most of the time, you are not setting up your unit, because it's literally like a little finger is in cover and you've got cover for the whole unit. So this is an amazing ability, especially as you're coming back over and over again, and especially when combined with some of the stratagems that I'll talk about in a minute as well. So essentially, in terms of stratagems, what we have for the Genestealer Cult is we have Tunnel Crawler. So this means that you can essentially bring a unit 3 inches away from any unit in the movement phase, in your movement phase. And when they arrive, they can't charge, but they can shoot. So essentially, you have so much flexibility in getting into the backfield, getting on, stealing objectives, just disruption, essentially. And also, if you're playing tactical play, which I would say 99% of the time with Genestealer Cult, you probably wanted to play tactical just because of your ability to move about so much. That allows you to maybe take behind enemy lines, different things, be able to do stuff. You could come in essentially and do an action if you really wanted to or needed to as well. There is one with the darkness, which essentially allows you to select one infantry unit from your army that was selected as a target of 1 more attacks. And until the end of the phase, that unit has a stealth ability and can only be selected if the enemy is within 12 inches. So you can come up and basically I have no idea what that says, Dave, because
Was it bad fun? Oh. It's demo charge.
Oh yeah, demo charges. Oh, don't you worry. Those demo charges are going to come in hot in a minute.
They better not.
But essentially, you have so much more ability to protect yourself, especially units quite far away, and just hold like your backline, things like that as well. We've got perfect ambush, so 1 Genestealer Cult unit from your army that arrives from reserves in this term and has not been selected to shoot, gains an improved ballistic skill and armor penetration characteristic, and that's increased by 1. So again, another great synergy there. And then we've also got Return to the Shadows, which essentially means you can take up to 2 Genestealer Cult BATTLELINE units off the board and bring them back, and 1 just normal infantry unit, and place them in strategic reserve and have them come back on at basically the next strategic reserve point, so the next phase. So you've got yourself in a good position. The enemy think, hey, this is going to be great, they're going to get wiped out. You can just be like, nah, I'm going to take them off, and then they'll come back in somewhere that I kind of decide later on. And that's essentially it in terms of what we have for the stratagems. There are sort of your 2 bigger ones. One which is your big 2 CP one, which is 2 Genestealer Cult units from your army that have not been selected to shoot or fight this phase, and you select 1 enemy unit, and for that phase you can add 1 to your wound roll. So for those of you who played Genestealer Cult in 9th edition, that is your crossfire, that is your exposed rules being brought in, but just in kind of a different way. Personally, I really liked the exposed and crossfire way that kind of worked, even though I was freaking terrible at setting it up ever. I liked kind of how it worked, but they can't do everything, and I think Cult Ambush is just a really nice piece of fluff, and they've kind of kept some of that crossfire stuff in there, and I'll explain a little bit later on with some of the units that can set up your crossfire, which is +1 to hit. And then the other final one is just unquestionable and questioning loyalty, which just means that 1 Genestealer Cult character unit from your army that has been selected for the target of 1 or more enemies' attack. Until the end of the phase, each time a character model in your unit would lose a wound, you select 1 friendly cult unit within 3 inches to take that wound, essentially, and they suffer 1 mortal. So there are some synergies you could probably play with that in terms of having a unit, an icon bearer, which isn't in my list, by the way, but the icon bearer lets you have feel no pains on mortal wounds on +4 or 5, which essentially means that if you do pass the mortal on to that unit, they could be rolling and you might not actually take any damage from that attack, essentially. So the one thing I will say just before going on to my list is that the Cult Ambush characters that are attached to units do not come back, because that would actually be insane.
Yeah, that's a really scary important thing to bring up. When you think of how many armies have so much shooting and mortal wound output just now with these new universe special rules, and I guess how many units, if you're tactical and how you've manoeuvred and screened, you're throwing your screen away to reclaim a lot of the board in your next turn quite quickly. And to think that some of these characters that I'm sure you'll get chatting about soon, some of these characters are quite spicy, and in their abilities to really soup up some of your units. But I won't spoil that for you.
Yeah.
I'll let people hear that from you.
Yes. So essentially, going into the first units in my list, I'm going to start with the Aberrant. And the Aberrant is attached to a 10-man. Not the Aberrant. The Abominant is attached to a 10-man Aberrant unit, and I am so happy that Aberrants are actually useful because I love the model. I loved kind of how they looked and kind of the whole background to them being these just like absolutely mutant creatures. But in 9th, they were just so expensive. They died super easy. That has all changed in this edition. So essentially what the Aberrants get is they have pretty heavy weapons. They have a strength 8 heavy power weapon, or they've got their strength sort of 6 heavy improvised weapon, which can go on your onto your captain essentially in that unit. And they also have a feel no pain of 4+. They can be deep strike. They can have deep strike to come in, and they also have a thing called Hulking Bodyguards, which means that if you're each time an attack targets this unit, if the strength characteristics of that attack is greater than the toughness of the unit, subtract 1 from their wound roll. So essentially, they are just they are super super beefy, and in a meta that is very shooting focused, this is a melee unit that is going to be able to stand up to that shooting and be able to hopefully get in. And when they're attached as well to the Abominant, who has a strength 12 power sledgehammer, which will be good for your big elite units, some of your vehicles as well. He also gives sustain hits 1 ability to the unit. Also has that feel no pain as well. And just for him, the first time this model is destroyed, you roll 1d6 at the end of the phase. On a 2+, set this model back on the battlefield as close as possible to where it was destroyed and not with engagement range with its full wounds. So the Abominant also has the ability to come back in, and he is a total swinger with that power set. And like I said, I'm happy because these are just real cool characters, and again, they're just getting, it feels like they've just spent a lot of time on the Genestealer cult, which I was worried as an underplayed faction, they could have just easily have just kind of done a few things here and there and it not be that interesting. But for those guys, it is a big unit, and essentially what I've put on him is what's called give me 1 second, is an enhancement called Inscrutable Cunning, which essentially allows them to be make a scout move, so they can, not a scout move, but they can be infiltrating in on their first movement. So Dave's frantically putting down his notes on his notebook there.
Kill Aberrants.
Yeah, kill Aberrants.
How many is in the list in total?
There is 10 and 1 Abominant.
Okay.
So essentially, with anything with infiltrate.
Toughness 6.
What's that? Sorry, Fulvio?
Yeah, toughness 6.
Yeah, toughness 6. Yeah. And the Abominant has 5 wounds, and the Aberrants each have 3 wounds each, with a feel no pain of 4+. So that's pretty good.
It's also nice to see they're off the naughty shelf, because obviously you didn't play in 8th edition, and I remember playing a couple of games and being absolutely terrorised by these concrete pole wielding mutants back in 8th edition. They were very naughty boys, very naughty girls, worshipping the wrong emperor.
Was it signposts?
Yeah.
Yes.
And you get extra hit because of the bloody signpost.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Imagine getting malkied with a couple of hammers, and then a guy just comes round with a signpost. Here you go, mate. You've lost your way.
Yes, I know.
I'm going to help you.
Bus stop.
It's hammer time.
Oh my god! Right.
No, did you literally go and get that hammer?
I was trying to find my rubber mallet, right? But I couldn't find it. So this was the next best thing.
I mean, we could have had that out for the Space Wheels jokes, I think, because these are
No.
the Abominant's got a real melee weapon. A strength 12 melee weapon is nothing to be.
Yeah.
Nothing to take lightly.
They've got a better hammer.
They do.
They've got a better hammer than your, what is it? Doggy hammer?
Totally.
It's probably like a wee squid. Every time you hit, it goes.
So Nick, tell us what else have you got? So we've got the 10 Aberrants led by the Abominant.
Yeah.
They'll-
And then we have two Achilles Ridgerunners. So that's kind of like your light support, and they are in units just themselves. And essentially what they have is they are your heavy weapon vehicle try and kill if we can. Genestealer Cult, we're not going to be doing a lot of killing of big stuff. That isn't really how you're playing them. It's more about gaining points and taking objectives and killing where you can. But they have some stuff in there that can do a lot of damage, especially with the Achilles Ridgerunners. They are equipped with heavy mining lasers each, which again is strength 12, D3 attacks, 4+ ballistic skill, and -3 AP with damage D6 +1. So if you're getting your full 3 on that attack, that's going to be quite nasty into some vehicles as well. And those minor lasers also have blasts, so on bigger units you're going to get all 3 attacks anyway. And then it's just twin heavy stubbers, which are twin linked, 3 attacks, and rapid fire 3 as well. So you can increase the amount depending on how close you are going to be. And what I was saying before was you have like crossfire is back, but in a different way. And crossfire is basically created by your Ridge Runners. So each time this unit has shot, select one enemy unit that was hit by one or more attacks made by a Ridge Runner. And each time a friendly Genestealer Cult unit makes an attack on that target, they get an improved armor penetration of +1. So essentially what that means is on stuff that has got good saves, so your 2+ saves, 3+ saves, you're going to make it a lot harder for them to actually stay alive with your weapons from your smaller guns. And I've also put spotters on them, so there's sort of wargear abilities, and what the spotter done is spotter gives a ballistic skill of 3+. There's arguments there for using sort of flare launchers to give the keyword smoke, which I think means that it's like a +1 to the save for them as well. And there's also a survey auger. Each time the bearer unit has shot, select one enemy unit that's been hit 1 or more times. Until the end of the phase, each time a friendly Genestealer Cult model makes an attack against that unit, the attack ignores cover, but you're ignoring cover quite a lot of the time anyway, so the 3+ instead of a 4+ is going to make a huge difference, because if anyone rolls like me, 4+ are not coming out very often.
I mean, this seems like a pretty impressive little profile. What made you settle on just the 2 of them? Because actually, when I look at those range profiles, the blast on that heavy mining laser is quite intimidating for things like Gravis armor and stuff. You know, hitting on 3s, wounded on 2s, you're getting a minimum of, you know, D3 +1 or D3 +2 shots, depending on how big that Gravis unit is. If you're dealing with one of these 6-man kind of Eradicator squads that some people have got in lists, or 10-man 10-man kind of bricks, that's pretty scary with the 2 of them.
Yeah, and I think I used to run 3 They're very similar to how they were. They haven't really changed that much, like they were in 9th. Because with 8 wounds apiece, that's pretty good, and no profile, they don't go down in how good they are. Makes them pretty good. So there definitely is arguments for using 3. I think it's always going to be, well, I could get a unit in for the points. And as we'll go into the units, their ability just to come back over and over again is just so good and useful. You really want to maximize how many units you have in your squads, essentially.
What's the other guns that it has? A launcher or something like
It's
that
got,
as well?
it's got a mortar, which is indirect fire, blast again. It's D6 plus 3. It's only sort of strength 6, so probably quite good against like units, like smaller, squidgier units. And then it's got the missile launcher, which is strength 9, 4 plus, 3 attacks, and minus 2 AP and flat 3 damage. So again, pretty good, but there isn't anything else in your list really that damages vehicles at range. So you really, I would say, mining lasers every time for the Ridgerunners, just because you don't really have any other options.
What's the range difference again, sorry? What's the mining laser and
the mining laser is 36 and the missile launcher is 36 as well. The heavy mortar is 48 inches. So 36, you're going to be hit most stuff. Yeah. And their ability to move about is really good. 12-inch movement there. They've got a lot kind of going on for them there as well. And they've also got Scout 9, so you can get in. And they've got, just a lot of maneuverability, as with a lot of the Genestealer cult models as well.
It's a great profile. It really is.
Yeah, it's a sneaky profile.
Yes, definitely. And then I have my Acolyte Hybrid units. So I have 2 blobs of Acolyte Hybrids, literally exactly the same. And in these blobs, we have hand flamers, we have cult claws and knives, and we have the leader's cult weapon, because why wouldn't you? There's no other real reason you wouldn't ever choose the good thing. And as everyone talks about a lot, it's quite likely GW are going to bring out other options when the codexes come out, but right now it's like one option for everything. And then just maxed out heavy mining tools on those units as well. Again, for a little bit of chopping into your more meaty characters, if you can get into that melee range, and also maybe a little bit of disruption on the on vehicles as well. But your big vehicle destroyer is going to be those demo charges. It's a one shot, but bear with me. There's a demo charge. It's a one shot. It's 6 inches, D6 plus 3. It does go off on a 5 plus, which makes it a little bit more difficult for it to go off, but still pretty good. And strength 12, minus 2 damage. So you want to make sure you have demo charges in that unit. And when your unit dies, you get your demo charges back again. They literally confirmed that was the case in the last sort of update data slate. So essentially, one of those units for me starts in a transport to be able to use a firing deck, to be doing all of that kind of chaos with hand flamers, with demo charges, and just kind of jumping out and maybe just causing a bit of a ruckus in there as well. And kind of the stuff that they can do, they've got Vile Insurrectionist, so each time a model in this unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1, and if the target of the attack is an enemy unit within range of an objective marker, you also reroll wound rolls of 1 as well. So they are good for shifting stuff off objectives.
So good.
And with everything, most of your units have deep strike abilities, so you can start them off the board and just have them come in as in the second go. So you could essentially start with like 2 units on that board and then just bring everything down in like a hail of fire and 3-inch away from stuff and
Demo charges.
Yeah, with demo charges being chucked about the place.
Just demo
Yeah.
charges.
So is that one demo charge per unit of 10, or is that one in every 5 can take a demo
every
charge?
5? So you have one demo charge per 5. So there's 2 in each unit.
Ooh, spicy.
So they're pretty nasty. And they also have the cult icon, but it's not really worth it for the small units because they're probably going to get wiped out before you get back. And what the cult icon does is you can return D3 destroyed models, but you kind of lose other things by choosing that. So for the Acolyte Hybrids, I would say just isn't worth it. So going in... Oh, sorry. Ask.
Sorry, I was going to say, what do you lose if you chose the icon?
If you choose the icon, you lose your... Let me just have a little check. What does it say? You basically lose your sort of main weapon for replacing cult icons, so it just isn't really worth it. So you would lose like your hand flamer or whatever. Yes.
I mean, it would be quite good if there's loads of indirect fire coming from a certain wolfy person, and having one in the back line with an icon just solely for sitting on your home objective.
Yeah.
Okay if they die, but then you've got the chance, so you have that opportunity to bring a couple back.
Don't you worry, Dave. I will come to that.
Ooh, spicy. Yeah. Hot take coming. Yeah. Hot take.
So we've also got the Atalan Jackals. So Atalan Jackals were big hot stuff in 9th edition. I personally had no clue how to actually play them well, so I never really took them. I literally took them to do actions and then die. But now they are just a mortal's bomb, and like they've got like their weapons. Like I'm not even really going to go over their weapons. They're kind of just like not very good. But their big thing is that they have a thing called Demolition Run. Each time the unit ends a normal move, you can select one unit within 6 inches invisible of the unit, and you roll 1d6 for each model in that unit. And for each 4+, the enemy suffers a mortal wound. And before they came in with a data slate, there was a way that you could bring in the Alphus, who is attached to this still, and do that twice in a movement.
Oh God.
So they clarified that you cannot do that.
Did they clarify if that's capped at like a certain number of mortal wounds, or does it if
No.
Nope.
Oh, come on. GWI.
Nick said you could have done it twice. Straight after one another. And it's like...
Because essentially what the Alphus does is the Alphus allows you to make a 9-inch move after you have shot, essentially. So in your shooting phase, you can make a normal move up to 6 inches, but you can't declare a charge, which is fine. So essentially, before you could move a little bit and then be like, "Hey, we moved in this phase. Here we go again." And they also give rerolls of hits of 1 as well. For each time this model makes an attack with its sniper rifle, if it scores a hit until the end of the phase, each time another Genestealer model from your army makes a ranged attack that targets the enemy unit, you re-roll a hit of 1. So you kind of always wanted to shoot with your Alphas first, and then use that as a way of hitting anything. And that also you can hit character units with that as well, with the sniper rifle, because it's got precision in there as well.
Nice.
So yes.
It's going back on to the Acolyte Hybrids, and now Dave's gonna hate me.
Yes.
Do you have two Primuses for every unit, right? The characters in the unit. Yeah.
So I have 2 Primuses, yes.
And you're gonna put them in the hybrid.
One.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've got one in a hybrid. I've got one in a hybrid and one in a Neophyte.
Don't help him, Fulvio.
I'm not helping.
Don't
I'm
make
just
my life
pointing
harder.
out. I'm just pointing out that it's good. There you go.
It's common sense.
Yeah, it's common sense.
So essentially,
we demo charges.
Yes. So another unit that I have is we have I'm really bad with these names, but Clamavus, which is your audio dude. He's holding a big like sound stick, and
Oh my god!
essentially
just like DJing.
Yeah, DJ just in the background. It's like literally proper setup, like we're in some kind of post-apocalyptic, like
just having a death rave
hellscape. And literally the whole point of this unit is sit in the back and nothing can come in within 12. And it does some battle shock test stuff. So it suffers one if you it's actually a pretty good one. Any unit within 12, you subtract 1 for the battle shock and it suffers 1 mortal wound if it fails a battle shock. But as we know at the moment, battle shock doesn't happen that often, and when it does, it doesn't really matter that much. So maybe later on in the edition that'll become really good, but it's just good for cheap stopping stuff coming in the backfield. Essentially, it just sits in the back.
12-inch deny for any army is a massive thing to have right now.
100%. And if you're thinking about Eldar armies that can come in, demons, like that is amazing.
Toughness 5 grots in combat.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, Dave.
That's fine.
And then basically carrying that one of those Acolyte units is going to be my Goliath Truck, standard transport, 10 wounds, toughness 9. It's not amazing, but it will just do the job. It has a demo charge catch again, so that means you also have demo charges getting chucked out through that with +5, 12 strength, -2 AP, 2 damage. You're wanting to just ram this as close to the enemy as possible. It will probably get killed quite easily, but it has firing deck 12, so you can literally have so much going on out the top of this thing. And it also gives fire support, so in your shooting phase, after this model has shot, select one enemy unit, it scored 1 or more hits against this phase. Until the end of the phase, each time a friendly model that disembarked from the transport makes an attack against that target, you can re-roll the wound rolls. So You think you get it nice and close, fire everything out, your unit comes out, it charges, comes in, and you're re-rolling wounds on that.
That's a party bus right there.
Yeah, that is literally the party bus, you know.
So also, now I don't know if it's actually been FAQ'd or not, or it's been FAQ'd in any of the like the WTC or the UKTC thing, but there, I think there was something about the fact that if you've got units inside that model and then you fire demo charges, because that unit's not on the actual table, you're using the demo charges. Sorry, it's actually the truck.
It's demo charge catch.
The demo are connected to the truck, so it doesn't affect. It doesn't actually affect the once per game.
Yeah.
So if you have that wee truck just stoning about, you could just
oh my god, it's like Mario Kart. You just keep throwing bananas behind you.
It's pretty much you're just constantly throwing like once per game demo charges, just constantly.
Oh god, right. I'm not looking forward to Friday anymore. I was looking forward to a nice fun stream.
Remember, Dave?
I'm going to be emotionally traumatized.
We'll be making. It's kind of a really nice stream because it's quite thematic. It's literally like an uprising that the Space Wolves, who are basically the executioners for the Emperor, are coming in to try and sort out. So it's just, I like it. I like in the thematic around it.
It's nice you've given it a theme. Right, give it a Z, little orc boy.
So into our other sort of battle line squads, we have.
There's more.
There's more. This is the thing with your horde armies. There is lots and lots to get through. I have 3 units of Neophyte Hybrids, 2 20-man and 1 10. And the 20-man all have icons, so they can bring people back. And one of those 20 men also have a Primus attached to the unit as well. And essentially, this is your guff units. They don't do a lot. They've got like seismic cannons, which are pretty good. They've got strength 6 +5, which can be kind of helped along with various things that can be attacked. And I also put webbers on it, which gives devastating wounds and basically D6 attacks. So you're basically just rolling for devastating wounds on that. And in melee, they will just die and do nothing. So don't expect much from Neophytes in that sense. But again, one of their good things is if they are on an objective marker, you get to roll in on a 4+, you gain a CP. So that is for every unit that is near a objective marker. So on a 4+, you just gain another CP. So it's some nice CP farming and a very CP light meta that we have going on at the moment. So I also have a Nexus. So the Nexus's job is to sit in the back and look at his like battlefield table, and as well just having a party in the back with the Clamavus. And what he does is once per turn, you can select one model or unit from your army with his ability as a target of a stratagem for 0 CP. So it's that a lot of armies have this. It's just that use something for 0 CP. And also at the start of each player's command phase, if this model is on the battlefield, you can select one cult ambush marker that is on the battle and move it up to 6 inches. So that is tasty, because if nothing is within 9 inches of your tokens, that means you can just move it a little bit more closer to something or further away or wherever you kind of want to move it to set something up. It's just a really nice little addition for him. Alongside on him, he has a wee little bit of if I can find him on my thing.
He better not have an demo charge.
No, he doesn't.
He has meticulous planning, and what meticulous planning does is it makes something that costs an additional CP. So for
Nice.
big brain thinkers out there, if anything can be reduced to 0 CP, in that situation it would still cost 1 CP. So if you are up against Necrons, you can make stuff like their reanimation very expensive. You can make their Overwatch, which is crazy right now for a lot of armies. You can make Overwatch expensive, like all of these little things. You can just make stuff really more expensive. And a few armies have this as well, but it's just a really nice thing for armies to have. We are now getting into the back end, so we're very close to the end. We've got 2 more to come in. So we've got 2 Primuses attached to 1 20-man of Neophytes and 1 of the Acolyte Hybrids. And essentially his actual gear is pretty terrible. He's not going to be doing a lot of damage for you, but he is not there for the damage. He is there to keep the troops happy. All right. And what he does is while leading a unit, each time a model in the unit makes an attack, you can re-roll the hit roll. Not even just the ones. This is all hit rolls can be re-rolled. So
Nice.
Thinking about that is devastating wounds on the 20-man blobs, thinking about those demo charges, thinking about things like if you're in close combat and you've got your industrial weapons going at a vehicle, all of these kind of things we've got going on. And it also has a thing called decoy and misdirection. And if your army includes 1 or more models of this ability, after both players have deployed their armies, select up to 3 Genestealer cult units from your army and redeploy them. You can also put them in strategic reserve if you wish. So just a little bit more maneuverability, being able to move stuff around, all of that kind of stuff.
So like stuff you might have scout moved, you can just be like, you know what, I'm going second. I'm going to just take this right off the table before even doing that. That's
infiltration as well is really good because, you know, like you're always taking a risk infiltrating anything at not getting first go, but this kind of takes that fear away. You can be like, I'll just bring them in afterwards.
Nice.
And then finally, it's real tasty.
No, it doesn't have demo charges.
We've got demo charges coming in hot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Make sure to roll the demo charges.
And finally we have 2 Reductus Saboteurs. And again, 9th edition, terrible unit. This edition, unbelievable unit. Essentially, they've got demo charges as well, 1 shot. They've got what's called Remote Explosive, which is a 24-inch range, D6 plus 3 plus ballistic skill, 5 strength, 1 damage. The demo charge on the D6 plus 3 attacks for the Reductus Saboteur with that 12 strength is on a 2 plus ballistic skill. So that is insane, the amount of damage it can do once per battle. Other things that it has is it's a lone operative. It has stealth as well as its
That's
key.
a nice combo.
Yep. It can be an infiltrator unit. I would probably not have it too far up the board because you don't want to lose it really early. However, in your shooting phase, you can select 1 model from your army with this ability as a target of the grenade stratagem for 0 CP. So as well as doing all the mad stuff that you're doing, you can also throw some grenades into the mix as well, just to really spice everything up.
Basically, baby
demo charges. And then once per battle, when an enemy unit ends a normal, advance, or fallback move within 12 inches of this model, so essentially gets in shooting range of you to try and kill you, this model can use its Reductus Mine. If it does, roll a d6. On a 2+, the enemy suffers d3 plus 3 mortal wounds. So essentially, it's just got a little bit of safety net to reduce some of the numbers if stuff's coming in to try and attack it. And yeah, I've got 2 of those nice wee boys in there as well. And one thing that I didn't mention just finally on the Primus, on one of the Primuses, is I have on the Primus, give me 1 second, I'll just get him up, what it's called. I can't find what it's called at the moment, but essentially what it means is you can move the ambush markers again if stuff comes close to it. So if units come within 9 inches of an ambush marker, I can just move it a little bit. So it gives that little bit of safety. But yeah, essentially, it took me a long time to get through it. Horde armies, loads and loads of units, and actually what Dave keeps saying about them is you're essentially have a 2k army, 1995, because for some reason it's very hard to get 2k on the dot with any army at the moment.
Well, my list is 2k, thank you very much.
Oh, I'm sorry. It means that you can get essentially a whole nother force. Like they're just going to keep coming back every time they die. So you don't want to be precious with your battle line units. You want to just keep throwing stuff in there, into the meat grinder, into the grind of war, just to die over and over again.
Well, I am very much looking forward to seeing this on the table when we go live over on Twitch. And now is probably a very apt time to remind everybody of the plugs. The fact that we do have a dedicated Twitch channel at Reaper Wargaming Glasgow. You can find us also on YouTube under the exact same name, Reaper Wargaming Glasgow, on Spotify, on the Instagram. We've got a Facebook page and a Facebook community. And obviously, as we will all agree, the best place to be involved with the club, not only just in person, but is to jump into the Discord, which the link will always be attached here in the show notes.
The Discord is so active, we had to slow down the chat at one point over the last week. So that is how active our Discord is. So if awesome. You're wanting an active Discord, get in there. I actually lose track of how many unread white notifications come up daily. I tried to clear them, but we just have lots of people, lots of stuff to talk about. You'll never not be able to chat about stuff unless you play GSC, because it's literally me and one new guy that is making an awesome Patriarch.
Yeah, I saw that. That looks really
sitting
cool.
on like a tank throne. Yeah.
So, I mean, he's on his throne.
Yeah, it's cool.
I mean, that's so cool. I can't wait to see that finished.
Yeah.
Hats off to him. If I had a hat.
Take it off, mate. You wanted hats.
I wanted hats, but you guys said no.
Yeah.
You said, no, Dave, that's not a really good pick. That's not a really good idea. You had many, but not now.
I'll work on it. I'll get you a hat for Christmas.
Oh, smashing. God.
But yeah, just to say, to join the Discord, it's all going to be down. All the details will be down in the description, as it always is. The list that I'm using, it's a pretty, what I would say, competitive list. But as with Dave and me, like, we're happy with a little bit of like competitive list building, which is always good. And I'm just interested to see how it will play. I think it's going to play pretty well. We'll see how good I am at actually utilizing all the tools in the toolbox, but that is to be seen. But yeah, GC the Cult, anyone that's thinking, oh, do I really want to play the GC the Cult? Super fun, really cool models. You can do quite a lot with them as well in terms of like customization stuff. And yeah, I would say 100% give them a go. They're just very different from most factions that you'll play, and I just love them because of all the tricks. Being able to take stuff off, be able to say, hey, you thought you were shooting that unit. Actually, you're no longer shooting anything because nothing is within 12 or whatever.
You can say that, and you could say that to Dave twice.
Yes.
In the same turn of shooting. Dave, you're going to shoot them? Nope. Okay, then I'll shoot it. Nope. Sorry, Dave.
Literally.
Yep.
But yeah, but anyone that's interested to see what happens, like we said, join us on Twitch. It'll be out by the time this podcast comes out, but the link we will have in the description below as well. And
hopefully by then it'll be up on YouTube as well on
it'll be up on
catch up.
YouTube. Yeah, and you can put comments and all kinds of stuff in there.
Yeah. Now, I have one wee thing to ask.
Yes.
Right. And it's to appease the questions people. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Oh.
Define a
Douglas
sandwich.
asked that in the podcast questions. Well, see, like, it stumped you.
No.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No, it's a roll.
No.
It's a roll.
I just think, is a burger a sandwich? It's not, is it?
No, it's a roll. It's a rolling sausage.
It's a roll. That's a whole different thing.
I feel bad for Douglas. That was a really important question that I felt that had to be addressed on the podcast.
That's fair enough. Douglas, I hope we have answered your question.
You have a chat question? Okay.
It's on Wikipedia. I mean, a sandwich is consisting of vegetables, sliced cheese, or meat. So, for me, no. But it's Wikipedia. I don't know. I know nothing. Anyway, there you go.
Is tomato a fruit or a vegetable?
Tomato.
This is we're going into real like deep thinking stuff. Soon it'll be like, what's the meaning of life? You know what I mean?
No. The next real question is demo charges or no demo charges?
Always non-stop demo charging, all day, every day. But
Fulvio, do you have a rant?
Sorry. Yeah,
do you have a rant? Yeah, because we didn't before we run away. Because I know we're a smidge over time, but I think Fulvio deserves a rant. The viewers didn't get a rant recently the last time, so I think Fulvio deserves his time to shine in his little rant corner. He's got his all lovely new lighting in his gaming room. So Fulvio,
believe it or not,
rant away, please.
Believe it or not, I do not have a rant ready. I'm sorry. My rant is against my internet connection. That is actually appalling. I had to change the modem, and it's actually still slower than before. I'm sorry. That's my rant. I don't have fiber in my place because apparently this part of Glasgow is not deserving like high-speed connection. So yeah, rant with me.
I'm disappointed.
Yeah, me too.
To be fair, internet is always a good one.
Anybody else have Did anybody else have a rant?
I'll probably have a rant for the next podcast about demo charges, but until then,
but yeah, thank you so much to everyone that came on the podcast today, Dave Fulvio and David B. We will catch you down at the club for some more games on Friday, each and every Friday. Don't be scared. We'll be there chatting. Everyone's chatting. Everyone's super friendly. Even if you haven't got a game sorted, still come down, hobby with us, come and just hang out with us while we're playing. Like, Fridays generally are always going to be chill games, and you can easily just come and see people playing, ask people what they're doing. If you're new to the game, everyone is super, super friendly. Maybe Dave won't be after all the demo charges, but
I mean, I might have to buy more Desolation Marines after this, but
yeah. But yeah,
No, but the problem is, Dave, Nick won't let you shoot anything.
yeah, that's true.
It's true.
and on that note,
On that note, just a big goodbye and thanks so much for listening.
thanks guys.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye!
Awesome.